Hi, everybody. Welcome to Book Club. This is the very last two chapters of the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. My name is Lauren Smithson. I'm a Sapphire Ambassador with Plexus, and I feel so privileged to be able to wrap this book up with everybody and do the last two chapters and talk about how the book went in general and what we learned from it. So we're going to talk about chapters 14 and 15 tonight, the law of expansion and the law of contribution. As always with John Maxwell, I feel like there's so much that we can take away from these two chapters. They're just meaty. I wrote notes and I have so many pages, so I'll try not to say everything that he says in the book because I want to hear from you guys and what you have to say. But I'm going to share with you my favorite things that I liked. So the law of expansion, I loved that he talked about right in the beginning that there is no finish line. We are truly limitless in anything that we want to pursue, whether that's Plexus, where we want to be with Plexus, if we want to run a marathon. The only limits that we really have on ourselves are the ones that we create for ourselves. When we're thinking of like, well, how can I really do that? When we start to create our own limitations, that's when they're there. Otherwise, we're truly limitless. He says, if you're still breathing and you're of sound mind, you have the potential to continue to increase your capacity. And truly, because of the limitations that we place on ourselves, we are only using, on average, 10% of our own potential. That blew my mind. Like, we have so much more that we can do, and we are so much more capable than maybe we even believe. So it's like we're only using just a portion of what we're capable of doing. And the way that we can get out of that and start to use more of our potential is by changing our thoughts and changing our actions. So he talks about a few different things here. He says, stop thinking about doing more work and start thinking about what works. So for instance, in our businesses here, if we just are working more hours, but really we're just scrolling, or maybe we're doing a really long list of things, but we're not necessarily doing the right things all the time, then we're not going to be as effective, right? So he says it's not always that we're doing more to increase our capacity. So if we want to get to the next rank or the next level, we don't always have to do more. We have to do more of the right things. So we have to think about, what am I required to do? What gives us the greatest return? What gives me the greatest reward? And if we focus on those things, on the right things, that's when we're going to continue to grow. He kind of talks about that again in the next chapter when he's talking about sowing versus reaping. I just think that was really important about doing the right things consistently instead of just doing all the things all the time. Or like the other thing I thought about was, we're doing IPA and we're commenting on people's stuff. And that's using our time to do some of our important things, but that's not going to give us a return on our investment, right? That's not going to be reaching new people about our businesses. So then stop thinking, can I, and start thinking, how can I? So this is being solution oriented. Let's talk about the marathon again. Let's say we're like, oh, I want to run a marathon. And then all of a sudden, the first thoughts that come to our mind are, I don't have time to make the time to train. Can I really do that? Can my body really do that? Can my family accommodate that? If I have to go run for a few hours, can we really make that happen? Instead of, can I do it? Because those are already limitations we set on ourselves. Say, how can I? What do I need to do? What do I need to change? What do I need to, alter in my lifestyle in order to make that happen? Because there's always a solution. Again, that's putting limits on ourselves if we're thinking, can I actually do it? Instead of what solutions do I have to make that happen? And he talks about how our limitations that we have are usually from a lack of belief, not a lack of our ability. So we end up falling into this trap of not believing that we're capable of doing something, and then our actions start to follow that, right? So if we actually believe, I can run that marathon, I can get to the next rank, then our actions are going to start going in that direction as well. And we're going to start finding solutions to make things happen because we're passionate about it. So it's important that we believe in ourselves and we have perseverance. Something I loved when he talked about perseverance was this analogy of making a cake, and how really when we're in the middle of something, it doesn't always look like progress. So sometimes we get kind of discouraged because we feel like we're not making progress, but success is not linear. So he says we really can't bake a cake without getting the kitchen messy. So the kitchen's going to be a little messy for a while, but at the end, we're going to have this beautiful cake, and we can always clean up the mess after, right? So I just thought about the quote, success is not linear. And I'm sure you guys have seen all the graphs. I think I saw one recently on social media of like the graph, and people think that success is just a straight line up to the top. You do work, you get better, straight line. But truly any sort of success in anything you do, there's going to be bumps and curves and winding roads and things that you learn and maybe setbacks. But overall, if you keep doing the right things and you're consistent about doing them, then even if you have a little bump in the road or the kitchen's messy, you're going to start going up again as long as you keep going and don't quit. Yes, peaks and valleys, exactly. So perseverance is super important. And if you find yourself in a valley right now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a peak again. So just get yourself into action. Look at these things here, change your thoughts, change your actions, see what you can do differently, and you'll start to have success again. And then he says, number 3, stop thinking one door and start thinking many doors. And I think of this, I know I'm giving a lot of plexus examples tonight, but I was thinking about how sometimes we can look at other teams, specifically other diamond teams. And I know the Jules and I have talked about this a lot because in the Jewel page, there's all these different teams doing things all the time. And they're doing things that maybe work for their team, but we know what works for our team. But people are successful by doing different things all the time, right? So there's stuff that we can learn from other people and maybe different things we can try to implement. But just knowing that there's different ways to get to success, and you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You can do what works for you and for your team. So yeah, I also thought of, as a PT, there's a lot of different ways for somebody to get healthier. And I know that those of you that are therapists on here are going to relate to this, but my way of getting somebody healthier might look different than how Heather gets somebody healthier. We might have different exercises, different things that we talk to them about, or maybe different ways of explaining it, but it's still going to help them get healthier in the end. So just know that there's lots of different doors, there's lots of different solutions, answers to your questions. So don't just think that there's only one right way to do something. Okay. And he says, we can't forget to change our actions. So if we only work on changing our thoughts, but we're not actually implementing anything and changing our actions, we're not going to get very far, right? So we actually have to, if we want to increase our capacity for more, then we need to change our actions that we're doing every day too, to be more effective. Okay. Then he says, stop doing only the things you have done before and start doing things you could and should do. So this made me think, and he gave the example for his own businesses of he had to start using social media, and that was a new big thing for him. So some examples I thought of for us were, okay, we're on Facebook and we're used to posting there however many times a day, and then things change. So we learn how to do stories, we learn how to do reels, we learn how to reach people in a different way. So sometimes we need to adjust, learn new things. For therapists out there, go to new courses, learn new ways that you can do treatments to help people get better. Always be honing our craft and finding new ways, being a student of our profession, basically, and becoming better at the different aspects of it so that we can grow and then help others to grow as well. And then stop doing what's expected and start doing more than what is expected. This made me think of Christina Williams. I don't know if this made you guys think of her at all either, but she's always saying, I try to be the hardest working person on my team, right? We're always leading by example and trying to do as much as we can and be as effective as we can so that we are helping our teams to see what we're doing, and then they're going to be doing the same things, right? Not just doing the bare minimum every day. There might be seasons where that's what you've got time for and that's what you do for a day or two. But if we only do the bare minimum and we don't do more than what's expected, then we might not necessarily grow or grow as quickly. He talks about how going the extra mile in every little detail is what brings about excellence. And that's what's going to expand our potential. That's what I had written about that. And then the most important one that I thought he talked about was stop doing important things occasionally and start doing important things daily. So this kind of comes back to the bare minimum conversation, but we have to have discipline with doing the important things every day. This can be related to so many things. If we're talking about our business, for sure, but even like eating healthy or exercising or making any lasting change. How many times have we talked about we can't go to the gym one time and say, oh, I don't have 6-pack abs, right? Or I didn't lose any weight. I went to the gym one time. So if we're only going to the gym occasionally, we're really not going to see the results that we want to see. Same thing with eating healthy. You're not going to eat one salad and then change what your blood work says. So it's really choosing to do the things with discipline every single day in order to get to your goal. So if your goal is to get to the next rank, if you're only doing your IPA once or twice a week, are you really going to get there? You have to be doing it every single day, putting in the work every day, time blocking if you have to, and really being purposeful and intentional with your time so that you're doing the important things consistently. Consistency is key in everything that we do, as we've talked about plenty of times. So that was the law of expansion. And then the law of contribution, he talks a lot about, obviously, with growth. So growing ourselves enables us to grow others. I loved this chapter so much because it focuses more on why we are doing personal growth. Personal growth is great for us as people, for ourselves, but when we really start to look at personal growth as how can I raise my leadership lid to then help grow other people, we're going to get a heck of a lot further if we're focusing outward rather than focusing inward. And he talks about being a river, not a reservoir. So a reservoir takes in water to fill themselves up, but a river will take in water and then will give it to everybody else too. So we need to be consistently being like a river, filling ourselves up and then adding value to everybody else with what we're learning. So yeah, I loved it too, Jackie. So not taking it all in for what we can do for ourselves, but then passing on our knowledge to other people. I think it was another John Maxwell book that he talked about. If you are not intentionally adding value, then you are by other standards automatically subtracting. And like, let's talk about like a chat, right? In our group chats, if you're not adding value into those chats, then you are subtracting. If you're not adding value somewhere, then you're subtracting. So we want to be a river, taking in information and then giving it out to other people. He also talked about, there's this long list of questions. Who is your mentor? Who is with you when pressurized moments happen? So thinking about who is there for you in those ways, but then look at who you are there for in that way. Who are you mentoring? Who are you there for in pressurized moments? Do you have a lot of people that you're adding value to? Because truly the value of, or your success is not valued by how many, what was the quote? I am butchering it. How many people you have follow you, but how many people you give back to. So really you need to look at, who am I pouring into every day? Am I talking to my leaders? Am I talking to my team and making them feel valued, adding value to them, mentoring them, really digging in the trenches with them and being there when times are tough, when times are exciting, and just being there and doing life with them. So I think it's really important to think of that as well, not just who is serving you, but who are you serving as well. So focusing on wants and needs of other people rather than just ourselves. And when we do that, ultimately that's going to grow us anyway. When we're focusing on other people, that's going to help us grow ourselves as well. So he goes through, then I think 6 more things here, 7 more things. And I'm not going to go through all of them because I want to hear what you guys are taking away from this chapter as well. But I'll give you my favorite pieces here. He talks about being grateful, of course. People that aren't grateful aren't givers. So we want to be givers to other people, adding value, putting people first. He says things are temporary and people are what matter. This is so important. When we are only thinking about ourselves, we're not going to grow in any way, right? We're only going to grow ourselves, and then people are going to feel like our motives are selfish. But when we add value to other people, when we're putting time and energy into them, then they're going to know that we're there for them. We're in the trenches with them, and they'll want to partner with us and grow with us as well. So that's ultimately going to grow. If we're talking about our Plexus teams, that's ultimately going to grow our businesses anyway. But truly, what do we want to get out of this life, right? It's not only for ourselves. The people on our teams have families, have goals, have things that they want as well. So if we're helping them get to their goals, that's going to fulfill us and them even more than if we're just fulfilling ourselves. I know lots of us leaders on here can say for sure that we are more excited when other people reach their goals than we are when we reach our own. And that's why I love our team. And that's why I love Plexus, because I think we already are doing this. We care so much about the people that do this with us, and we all feel that. And that's why we're successful, because we're really pouring our time and energy into each other rather than just for our own gain. Don't let stuff own you. I think this is an important lesson in life in general. We shouldn't be worried about acquiring things, but because things don't bring satisfaction, right? We were in that team call on Monday, which was so powerful. And we all have talked about this before too. We don't necessarily care about having a Lexus or having the things. We care more about each other and making sure that we're adding value to each other's lives and reaching people and helping them see their full potential. We don't need the things. We really just need each other. And contributors are not going to look at what they can gain for themselves, but people that are really contributors look at what they already have as assets to then be able to spread to other people. So we need to start thinking about what we already have that's not even a thing within ourselves that we can really contribute to others and add value to other people. And that's not always a physical item. It rarely is. Don't let people own you. I loved his example about how he was going to dinner on Fridays with his friend. And his friend eventually, when he was leaving, said, "I've done so much for you. Why are you leaving?" And I thought it was important that he said that, because we really don't want to be having relationships with people where we're keeping score, right? We want to be givers more than we're takers. So that was a really good reminder, I guess, to never be saying, well, I did this because then you do this for me. We're doing things for each other without expecting anything in return. And then number 5, define success as sowing and not reaping. And I think this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about, because I just think that this is probably one of the more important things that I took away from this as well, especially when it comes to our Plexus businesses specifically. And my mind just goes to that when I'm reading these books, because I'm trying to think of how I can better myself and help my team. But so many times I myself or hear other people hear like about how they're not reaping anything, right? But we really have to think about what we're doing on the front end in order to reap a harvest, because sowing is always going to be way more important than what we reap. If we are continuously reaching out to people, trying to talk to more people about the opportunity that we have, the products that we have, if we're doing that consistently, then eventually the reward will come. If we're only worried about what the reward is, where our points are, how many prizes we've won, if we're only worried about those things, we're really missing the mark. We need to be worried about, who am I reaching? Who am I helping? How many people have I helped today? And as we sow and talk to more people and expand ourselves in that way, then the other rewards are going to come on their own without even watching them. So making sure that we're sowing continually, because in due season, there will be a harvest as well, almost without even feeling like there is a lot of effort, because the effort went into the sowing and the reaping will just come on its own. So those are my favorite parts. There's so much more I could have said, and I'm sure there's a lot that you guys want to say too. So I'm going to open up the floor and let you guys jump in.
Okay, I'll jump in. So many good points in these chapters. And when I was reading them, I couldn't help but think of just the word love, just love on people, love, give, selflessly. And I hope that I fulfill that with my team, with my people, with my friends, my relationships, my upline, my sister lines. That is just something that's so important. What I have found with this community is that we give to each other, we build each other up. And then we do reap the benefits from that, just from the giving part. And I think that's just so important for us to know. Even in my physical therapy life, giving to my patients, just helping them grow, helping them see the value in their exercises. It's just an everyday life. You give to your children, you give to your husband. In return, you reap back the loyalty and the love that you give back to them. So yeah, that's the word that came to my mind when I was reading these chapters. So thank you, Lauren. You did awesome.
Yes, that is that is the word that sums it all up, love and giving to other people. You're absolutely right. Without strings, which he mentioned too, just not expecting anything, but just giving for the sake of giving.
And with that too, like some people are conditional with their love. And I think that's so hurtful. Like I've had people in my life like, well, I do this, this, and this for you. So you have to, do this for me. And you almost, it's like you're being forced into a relationship with them or forced into something. And those conditions shouldn't exist on friendship or love or anything. And I don't know if anyone else has experienced that in their life, but I think a lot of us probably have experienced somebody like that, and just not a very, it's a very toxic person to have in your life. And yeah, just loving with no strings attached. I love that.
Yes. Having a servant's heart, right? I think sometimes when people have the expectation of having something in return, that's just a learned behavior over time. And truly, they probably need to read books like this, like we do. And that's why we read books like this, because some of us have things that we need to work on in all of these areas too, right? None of us are perfect. I think our team does a really great job, though, of giving. I think that's something that a lot of us are really skilled at. And it just comes naturally to us to just be very generous with our time and generous with our finances and generous with giving gifts. And it makes people feel really valued and honored. And I think that's why we've been so successful. Any other thoughts from tonight? What about where he talked about how it all looks like failure in the middle? Was that powerful for anybody else? I loved the cake analogy. What else did he say? Oh, in the middle of surgery, it looks like there's a murder. Because while we're in the midst of something, sometimes it can look messy. Like even when we're, let's relate it to plexus, on our way to the next rank or something, it can look scary. It can be scary. It can look messy. But continuing to just go and persevere and complete it, it'll be a beautiful thing at the end. So I thought that was a great analogy.
I liked that too. I liked a lot of this. You've touched on so many good points. A couple of the points that stood out to me were like in the very beginning, when he was talking about just our mindset and the limits that we place on ourselves, and how a lot of that just comes from thinking that like things that we've grown up with, bad habits. And one of the things that I underlined too is he said that his to-do list kept getting longer, but his impact wasn't increasing. And that was when he was talking about the working harder. It's not good to work harder, but work smarter, like we always hear all the time, right? And so that stood out to me because it's like, yes, I don't know. For me, I just feel like there's always so much work to do. Like it's never ending. The to-do list is always so long. And then it's like, okay, I didn't get that done today. Let's put it on the to-do list for tomorrow or whatever. And we really do need to be focusing on where is the impact coming from, right? Like that's what I want to focus on. But anyways, and then when he was talking about, you touched on this too, Lauren, but when he was talking about the can I versus the how can I, and I think, gosh, what leaders retreat was I at where he talked about that, and it was really good. And that it's when you say how can I versus can I, that can I gives you an escape. How can I makes your brain like go into like a Google search or something, and you're like then looking for a way that how can I get this done, and then it starts thinking versus like how it's going to get done versus how it's not going to get done, right? So I love just adding that one simple word in there and having that one simple mindset shift in there. I'm so tired, you guys, tonight. I can't even talk straight. Thankfully, I'm not leading this book club tonight. But anyways, I just wanted, those were a couple of things that I wanted to share.
Yes, finding solutions instead of placing our own limits on ourselves. So important.
Okay, you guys know I can't not say anything. I have issues. So, Lauren, I love, you did a great job. You picked up on so many of the things that I would have said. But one of the things I was thinking about too is, when we give, that growth expands, and when we give love to people and they feel that, it's so different. And a lot of times when we have teams who have huge explosive growth, people, it's hard because you may not know what the heck you're doing, and you're just doing these things and you're like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this. And then you're like, oh crap, I didn't get the chance to form the relationships that I needed with those people. And that happens, you guys. It happens. We see it a lot. It is not something new. And it doesn't mean that you can't go back and reestablish those relationships, checking back in with your people. Even in the school, there's a sign on the wall that's painted right on the wall in the teacher's lounge that says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I'm a yellow green person. I can nerd fact people to death, but then I forget sometimes that's not everybody's love language. And what I think I'm doing and doing things and giving them information in my heart feels like love, but in their heart, it's not the same. So sometimes having to pop back and reestablish some of those connections. Reds seem to have an issue with this as well. So making sure that you're wanting to know how people are feeling and doing, and that you're hitting all of those color personalities, because we definitely have to make sure that we've got those relationships, because if we don't have those relationships, just in a friendship, if you feel like you're somebody who's always getting taken from and only given, you don't want to be in that relationship. Same thing when we're dealing with people who are going through health issues, right? We're asking them to make some major changes in their lives. And some of these major changes can be a little painful. I mean, they're big things. I mean, if you've got people who even aren't used to drinking water all day and now they're peeing so much, that's a big change for them. So if they know that we care, we love them, we're helping them through those things, the odds of them not saying, well, I'm not going to do this, this is stupid, or this is too much work, is going to decrease if they know that we're behind them and that we're caring for them and that we're rooting for them all the time. So when we focus on that growth and that love, where your focus is expands. So make sure that you're doing that too, because your team is going to feel that as well. So just something that I took out of that.
Such a great point and great examples. And every time that I go back, because there have been times that my team's grown fast, and that just happens sometimes, and you do have to go back and make sure you establish those relationships. Whenever I do, and I establish the relationships and I really get to know people, it just solidifies why we're doing this too, right? It makes it that much more powerful. I have kind of a personal example actually from just today of something similar, not in Plexus though. I was at work and I had an evaluation this afternoon with a man that was coming in because he's going to have his prostate removed. And he was really grumpy. He was not nice. And he walked in, and I'm pretty bubbly at work. I'm kind of quiet if you know me in real life, but at work I'm like bubbly, I'm confident. And he's walking in and I'm like, hi, what brings you in today? And I'm just, trying to be chatty. And he's saying like one word answers, not really talking to me. And he was just really grumpy. And I was just starting to get annoyed and upset because I was like, I'm trying so hard to be nice to you. Can you please just be nice back? And so I go and get something off the printer and I'm frustrated, and I come back and we start kind of talking again. And I just start watching, and I'm watching him and I'm watching how he's reacting and responding. And I realize this guy is freaked out. He's scared. He's afraid to have surgery. The surgery is the day before his birthday. He's mad that he retired and now hadn't had any health issues. And now he's retired and has all these health issues that are coming on. And instead of me being frustrated, I switched it and just started being really loving and saying, like, I'm here for you. I'm going to help you through this. If you have issues after surgery, come back and see me and we'll get through it together. I see men for this all the time and they do really well. You're doing the right things. You've got a really great team. And just loving him helped us connect a little bit better. And that's going to build our trust. I don't know if I'll see him again. I don't know if he'll want to come back after surgery, but I do know that loving him today made him feel valued and like he wasn't just another person coming in my door, because he was asking me questions that the doctor and the surgeon should have told him. And it sounds like they just rushed him through as another person, like, you're getting your prostate removed, go see this PT. It wasn't like, this is what you can expect with surgery. I know you haven't had a surgery before. Let's walk you through what that's going to look like. He felt clueless, deer in headlights, freaked out. And so if we can just remember that we are here. I am there to serve him as a PT and to be kind and to answer questions and make him not scared. We are here for our people on our teams to make them know that they're valued and to help them with their health issues. And when we put that first, everything else is going to get better. Everything else is going to grow. We're going to connect more. People are going to trust us, and it's going to build our relationships and our teams, and everything's going to get better. So just personal reminder for me today. And I thought that fit really well with what we talked about on book club tonight too.
That's so sweet. I think it's so important, like you're saying, to make sure. I know I would be scared if I had to go in for surgery, and I'm sure my dad probably felt like that just recently when he had to do his hip surgery, and I know he's had PTs and things. And so, yeah, just loving people, exactly. And trying to put ourselves into their shoes.
Yeah.
One more thing I was going to say too, these questions really stood out at the end of chapter, whatever it is, 14, the law of expansion chapter. And I've heard Brittany and so many other diamonds ask these different questions and things too. And it's like, I don't know, I just have to say this really fast too. I remember when I first started getting on book club, And reading these books, because I didn't do that in the beginning. We didn't even have book club in the beginning when I first started my business. But I would watch these different videos and I'm like, oh, this is good. And I'm like writing all these notes down. And then when I started reading these books, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where all these people are getting all this amazing stuff that they make these videos on, So anyways, I had to say that really fast. But a couple of these questions that he asked on here, did you guys read the questions at the end where he said applying this? He says where he talks about the can I to the how can I, and then he says test yourself, do some dreaming, then ask yourself, if I knew I could not fail, what would I attempt? That's a really powerful question. If I had no limitations, what would I like to do? If finances were not an issue, what would I be doing with my life? How many times have I said this on calls and on three-way calls, or put it into three-way chats? If time or money were no object, what would your life look like? And I think that it's so easy for kids to dream about things that they want to do, and they have these big goals and these big ideas. And, I don't know, adulthood, but there was some movie where they were talking about it. Oh, I think it was Charlotte's Web. And the doctor was like, yeah, it's called childhood. Sadly, she'll grow out of it. And it's like, that's so sad. Like, we want to be still growing and dreaming big. And I don't know, for me, I've had a lot of my dreams come true, and now I have to learn how to dream bigger. And then sometimes I feel like, well, gosh, I mean, I'm already so stinking blessed. I don't need anything else, like I have enough stuff and enough things, and I'm so blessed. But God has done all that, and he wants to bless us abundantly, right? And so just being thankful for all of that. Anyways, but I just love those questions, and I just think everybody should really think about those when you have some reflecting time. And when you're reading these books, don't just read them to check mark a box. Oh, got that done, got on book club on Thursday. Like, really think about you. John Maxwell talks about all the time. We have to have that reflecting time, and then we have to have the applying time. It's not enough to just read the books. I tell my kids all the time, it is not enough to just know something. Now you have to do it. It's not enough to know it. You have to do it. So anyways, those were some powerful questions that everybody should write those down, and then we should share them in our Rockstars chat or something. Or share them here if anybody did think about it, or write them down.
Heck yeah, please.
One nice challenge that you could do that goes along with this, that we've done in some of our other training, is have a gratitude Friday and a post for gratitude Friday. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Friday is the end of most people's work week. Easy for me to say. It really is only tea in my mug, I swear. But if you start your Friday off with gratitude, that focus will be what you have and what people see and read and go through for the rest of the week, versus, I finished my work week and it's stupid, and I have 2 days off and then I got to go back Monday. But I feel like I am so thankful that this Friday, I was able to help somebody at work, or we had an amazing book club last night, and Lauren shared some great concepts, or I've been able to do this, these little stupid things. If people see that and read that, what we focus on expands. And if we're focusing on that gratitude, that allows you to dream more and allows some more of those things to happen. So that might be something that you could think about as you're working on your dreams and different things for coming up.
I love that idea. There's even a lot of research that shows that doing your own gratitude journal helps with that too. So even just starting your day and writing 5 things you're grateful for every day, I know that can be life-changing. So it's good that we do it for ourselves, but then if we post about it, like you said, Jackie, then that helps other people see the value in that as well.
Well, and it doesn't have to be huge life-changing things. Like I get annoyed when my family doesn't do their dishes and they leave them on the counter, and I get up and I walk out there, after these calls, and I'm like, there's dishes on the counter. I'm like, "Mm." Then I have to switch it and go, I'm thankful we have a warm home and the dishes are there for me to do. I'm thankful that I have the ability to maybe sleep in a little bit longer because I don't have to go to work tomorrow morning and do these dishes for them. So it's kind of, instead of saying I have to, switching it to say, I'm thankful I can do, and again, it doesn't have to be huge life-changing things, but flipping that around definitely changes your focus.
I literally just posted about that in my stories today. I was grateful for, I'm like, oh, here's my messy kitchen. And then baby, I rolled my little bassinet right into the kitchen with me. And then I like showed a picture of my messy kitchen. And then I'm like, oh, the baby's just here for moral support. And then I was like, seriously though, like, I'm so grateful for dishes to wash and food to eat on those dishes and warm water to wash them with. And like, we do need to just be focusing on the gratitude. And then the other day I posted on my stories, Elizabeth, you bought that book for me, the 3-minute, whatever it's called. I can't think tonight, y'all. I cannot even think at all. 3-minute something or other. But anyways, I posted about that too, because it's basically a gratitude journal. And it's so important to write these things down, because while we should be thinking about them all the time, it's even more powerful when we write them down, because then we're seeing it and we're writing it. It's using more of our senses. And I was just talking about this with another one of my level 2s, because she's having a really hard time right now. I'm like, you've got to stop thinking about all of the things that are wrong and hard and sad. You've got to turn some things around and start thinking about the good things in life, because exactly what Jackie just said, what you think about, you bring about, and your thinking expands.
Yeah. And I like that we're talking about posting about it too. Like Rochelle, you just posted about it. Jackie, you challenged us to post about that, because that's what we're doing as contributors, right? Like we're doing the personal growth now so that we can learn what we're learning and pass it on to other people. So that's a contribution to others. That's why on our team and in Plexus in general, we're posting all the time, and our posts are not just random posts. We're adding value to people, because that's going to help them see value in themselves. It's not that we're adding value just so that they want to join our team. We're adding value so that they can maybe see what they're grateful for, and we can start kind of changing their mindset around things. I've had a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of you have too, be really grateful for things that I've posted that I didn't know that they needed, but they read it and it touched them in some way. And that's what we're doing. We're using our assets to then give to other people. Okay, any other nuggets from the last 2 chapters of the book? Or anything in the book, I guess, since we are finishing it up tonight? Anything else you want to say? Okay, well, that wraps up the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. So what an amazing book, as always. John Maxwell always knows what to say, and I always learn so much from him. So, okay, I will see you all on the next book club. Have a wonderful rest of your night. And thanks everybody for contributing today. Bye, everybody.
Yes, and Merry Christmas, because it's our last one, and Happy New Year, because we won't see you guys.
Yeah, see you next year. Haha.
Yes, see you next year. Exactly. And our next book is Atomic Habits. So that's in January.
Yes, that's a really good one. Really, really good one too. Okay, thanks everybody.